My house is a rest stop for cosmic beings, and they keep complaining I'm out of milk. The sound that woke me wasn't the storm. It was the wet, deliberate click of claws on my kitchen linoleum. My blood went cold. My bedroom door was shut, but it was a flimsy defense, a polite suggestion at best. I lay perfectly still in the dark, listening. Another click. A soft, scraping sound. The telltale hum of the refrigerator door swinging open, spilling a pale, ghostly light into the hallway. I knew who it was. The knowledge didn't come with a jolt of surprise, but with a slow, sinking dread that settled deep in my gut, heavy as a stone. I threw a pillow over my head, a useless, childish gesture against the inevitable. Last night, the forest had pulsed with color. A silent, strobing light show behind the ancient black-limbed trees that ring my property. Mint green, then a violent arterial fuchsia, then the dead black of a starless sky. I had seen it enough times to know it was a door opening. I was just too tired to care who or what came through. I wish I had cared. Dragging myself from bed, I didn't bother with clothes, just pulled the quilt from the mattress and wrapped it around my shoulders. It was a pathetic shield, but it was all I had. Each step toward the kitchen was a negotiation with my own nervous system. Don't run, don't make a sound, don't show fear. Her form was mostly hidden by the open refrigerator door, a hulking, unnatural silhouette against the appliance's sterile glow. The cold air pouring out of it felt normal, but the air around her was different. It was thin and carried a charge, like the moments before a lightning strike. The fridge door slammed shut with a percussive bang that made me flinch, and I instinctively looked away, my eyes finding a spot on the floorboards to stare at. A deep, resonant voice vibrated through the floor, through my bones, settling in my chest like a second, dissonant heartbeat. You're out of milk. The sound didn't come from a mouth. I knew this because I'd made the mistake of looking before. It emanated from the row of vertical, gill-like slits that ran down the length of her back, fluttering and pulsing with each syllable. The silence that followed her words was still full of her, the echo of that impossible baritone hanging in the air. I heard the slick, lapping sound of a tongue cleaning something from between long claws. My stomach twisted. She hummed, a low thrumming that seemed to make the glasses in the cupboards tremble. And butter, she added. I finally forced myself to look, to take in the thing standing in my kitchen as if it belonged there. Shia. Her skin was the color of wet cement, mottled with patches of pale sky blue. A mane of coarse, black hair ran from her skull down the ridge of her spine, continuing along the length of a thick, prehensile tail that was currently coiled on my floor like a resting serpent. Her head was long and vaguely reptilian, with a broad snout and no visible ears, only pulsing holes on either side of her skull. She was leaning against my counter, trying to approximate a human smile. The gesture was a grotesque failure. Her skin, not made for such expressions, pulled taut over the bones of her face, pinching and stretching into a terrifying snarl. Her tongue, the same pale blue as the markings on her skin, darted out to lick a smear of something margarine, probably from under a talon that could disembowel a bear. "What are you doing here, Shia?" My voice was a croak. I clutched the quilt tighter. It wouldn't stop her. She decided to lunge, but the pressure was grounding. "Don't worry your little head," she rumbled, the sound seeming to come from everywhere at once. She pushed herself off the counter, her movements possessing a fluid, predatory grace that didn't belong in a small country kitchen. "I won't be here long. Just needed to stop at a checkpoint." Her pale blue eyes, pupils like vertical slits in a cat's, rolled to meet mine. I broke contact immediately, a primal instinct screaming at me that to hold her gaze was to issue a challenge I couldn't possibly win. I turned my back to her, a move that felt both profoundly stupid and absolutely necessary. I faced the window above the sink. Outside, the world was starting to wake up. The immense ancient trees that surrounded my clearing stood silent against a carpet of damp green grass. They were supposed to be my sentinels, my protectors. Now, their dark trunks just looked like the bars of a cage. If I unfocused my eyes, I could see her reflection in the glass. Distorted, blurry, almost safe to look at. A checkpoint? The word tasted like acid. I live here. This is my home. I could feel her shifting behind me, the subtle displacement of air. What would you call it then? My home, I thought again, fiercely. I remembered the day I bought this place, the profound sense of peace I felt standing in this very spot, looking out at the woods. The air buzzed with live crickets, cicadas, the whisper of wind through a billion leaves. It was a loud kind of quiet, a soothing symphony. It was perfect. I didn't understand then that the land itself was a wound, a weak spot between places. That the cosmic equilibrium I felt was a precarious balance, one that was constantly being corrected by chaos. And I was living right on the fault line. I wouldn't call a place someone lived in for 2 years a checkpoint, I said, my voice tight with a grief I could no longer contain. Her reflection in the window stilled. And again, I apologized for the inconvenience. There was no sorrow in her voice, only the same flat, dismissive tone. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't capable of it. I needed Cran to stay put, you understand. Containment can get tricky. I squeezed my eyes shut. I never asked to be part of this. The words screamed in my head, but I didn't give them voice. It wouldn't do any good. Cran. The memory hit me with the force of a physical blow. Not a monster like Shia, or an unnerving humanoid like Orin with his 7-fingered hands and hinged jaw. Cran had been gentle, lost. He'd stumbled through a rift in my garden one summer afternoon, dazed and bleeding from a wound in his side. He looked almost human, if humans had skin that shimmered like oil on water and eyes the color of twilight. He was terrified of this place, of what was chasing him. For 2 years, he was my secret. We'd fallen into a quiet, domestic rhythm. He'd help me in the garden, his strange, shimmering hands surprisingly deft with the tomato vines. He learned to love blueberries, hoarding the preserves I made like a dragon with its gold. We'd sit on the porch in the evenings, not always talking, just sharing the silence. The hole in my life I hadn't even known had been filled. The house wasn't just a structure anymore. It was a home because he was in it. Then, one day, I came home from a trip into town for supplies. The front door was ajar. His favorite mug, half full of cooling tea, sat on the kitchen counter. A book lay face down on the armchair, its spine bent to mark his page. The house was silent. Not the peaceful, living silence I was used to, but a dead, hollow quiet. A vacuum. He was gone. It was a week before Shia appeared for the first time, lounging on my sofa, to explain the new arrangement. To inform me that my home was a convenient, off-the-grid holding cell, and my part in it was non-negotiable. Now, Shia began to move. I felt her approach before I heard it. A wave of cold, oppressive energy washed over me, the essence of a storm condensed into a single being. The air grew heavy, thick, smelling of ozone and something else, something metallic and wrong. Goosebumps erupted on my skin. The blood roared in my ears and my heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird beating against its cage. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. She was past me. I risked a glance over my shoulder. Shia stood at my front door, her long, clawed fingers resting on the doorknob, smudging the brass. For all her power, for all her ability to slip in and out of realities, she always used the door to leave. It was a strange, almost quaint quirk, a mockery of civility. She paused, her head tilted, one of her slit pupil eyes fixed on me. "You are also out of chicken." She opened the door and was gone, leaving only the lingering cold and the faint metallic scent in her wake. I stood there for a long time, the quilt clutched around me, staring at the smudged doorknob. My shoulders began to shake, not with sobs, but with a brittle, helpless anger. Because I had just bought 2 whole chickens yesterday, and I knew with absolute certainty that their stripped carcasses were sitting at the bottom of my trash can.